You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hey, this is John Preston, Marine Combat Veteran and Pacific Records recording artist. Just reaching out to have you check out our new album, Battle Cry, Songs of America's Heroes, an album featuring phenomenal other combat veteran artists like Scott Brown of the Scooter Brown Band, Ryan Weaver, Rowdy Johnson, just an incredible mix of people. This is all veterans telling our stories and our lives, and we're giving 100% of our proceeds to the Valkyrie Initiative to help veterans and first responders integrate back into society. I myself have battled with post-traumatic stress for many years and lost my own brother, a Marine Corps veteran, to suicide. I ask that you step with us and make this happen. We are in pre-order right now and release on March 17th. Go to iTunes, go to Amazon, buy. We plan on making the charts and making it at a very high level, and your support right now makes a difference. This is the release of my new song, Superman Falls, which is actually about the loss of my own brother, which happened last year, and I would love for everyone to check it out, to listen, and hopefully it'll make a difference in many lives.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Engel, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Engel and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonEngel.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373, Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. And joining me today as my co-host is the Patriot from the Hoosier State of Indiana. That's J.D. Manier. J.D., welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
It's great to be with you again, Rick.
Great to have you with me, my friend. And what's on your radar screen?
Well, I woke up this morning and realized it was such a historical day, June 6th. And
Indeed it is.
Our friends at the Christian History Institute, which is not far from Philadelphia, pointed out that 173 years ago in London, a man named George Williams founded what would become the YMCA, Young Men's Christian Association. He gathered, I think, about almost 12 of his employees together for prayer, and they decided to create an organization to enrich the souls and lives of young men in London.
Interesting.
He would go on to be eventually knighted by Queen Victoria for his service to the nation.
Well, that's interesting. YMCA, we hear those initials time and time again, but very seldom do we stop and think, what do those initials mean? And as you say, it's Young Men's Christian Association. I'm glad you reminded us of that.
Yeah, the original motto was enthroning Jesus Christ in the hearts of young men, quote unquote. And boy, the organization, as a young man, I enjoyed it. Swam and played ball, and millions of Americans have used the YMCA over the decades. But then, Rick, we come forward 100 years to 73 years ago, and this is the anniversary of D-Day, the landing at Normandy. And I think you actually have been there in person.
Yes, I was there about 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago now. It was a terrific day just to walk those beaches, and it is so beautiful, so serene today. Also had the opportunity to go to the American Cemetery there, right next to the beaches of Normandy. And that's where they filmed the opening and closing of Saving Private Ryan. Very special place, very special place. It's so serene today, but it's almost difficult to imagine the carnage that was taking place 73 years ago today at this time.
Yeah, but Bloody Omaha, and then there was Juno Beach and Sword Beach. Oh, my gosh. And those young men were truly young. They were, 19, 20, 21. It led me to get the transcripts of Ronald Reagan's Normandy 40th anniversary speech. And he said, these are the boys of Point du Hoc. These are the men who took the cliffs. These are the champions who helped free a continent. These are the heroes who helped end the war. That was an anniversary. There were many of those young men now, senior citizens, who joined Reagan. And you've been there at the very same spot.
Yep,
I
have.
Just kind of puts, chills up my spine, realizing, the great valor and courage that they showed, demonstrated. Reagan went on to say, it was faith and belief. It was loyalty and love, talking about those young men. He said, the men of Normandy had faith that they were doing was right, faith that they fought for all humanity, faith that a just God would grant them mercy on this beachhead or on the next. And it's interesting, he would said, it was the deep knowledge, and he said, and pray God we have not lost it, that there is a profound moral difference between the use of force for liberation and the use of force for conquest. Boy, that day, 73 years ago, even in Philadelphia, they were ringing the Liberty Bell. People were praying on their knees in Kansas and Georgia, as Reagan pointed out.
J.D., having been there, I cannot imagine what it took for those young men to come off to those boats onto the beach, having been there at Normandy, having been in the heights, the bluffs above the beaches, and seen those gun emplacements, and they're still there. Many of them are still there, and you can still walk through them. I cannot imagine what it took for those young men to make that invasion. I mean, it just seemed to me it took more courage than I could ever muster.
Oh, it is amazing, too. Reagan pointed out, I mean, they they threw up the rope ladders, and the Nazis were raining down machine gun bullets and grenades, and they kept coming, and they took those beaches. And you're right, we haven't seen that kind of courage in many years, in such fight for life. It was a fight for liberty and democracy. It was one of the greatest moments in the history of mankind.
Indeed it was, J.D. Tom Brokaw, for all what I feel are his errors, the one thing that he said that I can agree with, he called that the greatest generation. The greatest generation won that war, and I still think of them as the greatest generation.
I do too. Christina and I still attend the Indy World War II Roundtable, and there's still a few World War II veterans that we are just blessed to get to talk with and fellowship with. And, they're dying every day, but they were the greatest generation. Reagan, he pointed out the 51st Highlanders, and as they arrived, Lord Lovat of Scotland said, "Sorry, we're just a few minutes late here." Well, they've been fighting, on bloody Omaha Beach, Sword Beach, and they came with bagpipes as reservists to help win. And it was that kind of courage, that kind of valor that we don't see quite like that. And thinking of America's, youth, it's not taught in the history books as it should be. I really believe that. And, you juxtapose that with this young lady, reality winner, the 25-year-old NSA leaker. She really hates Trump. I'm just kind of juxtaposing 73 years ago and the youth that just spilled their blood and guts for our country and for freedom for this country. And now, we do have some leftist young people who expletives on tweet and Twitter, and they do everything they can to bring down the Trump administration. And now it looks like they might pay the price. That reality winner story, everybody's listening on radio and television and finding out what this young lady did. Not encouraging.
No, not encouraging. And anybody who's attacking the president right now is actually doing so to destroy him, to destroy his presidency. But in doing so, they're destroying and weakening our country. And they must know that. They're destroying and weakening our country. He's our president. He was legally elected. The other thing that gets me, JD, is all this about the Russian conspiracy. Nowhere has there been any evidence, not a shred of evidence, shown the validity that the Russians tried to interfere with or hacked our election. All that is rhetoric coming from the left to destroy Donald Trump, to destroy his presidency, and to destroy this country. I really believe it is a conspiracy to do exactly that.
I agree, Rick. And when the hacking took place, none of the election polls were hacked, none of the voting machines, just the Democrat National Committee and Hillary. Mm-hmm. And it looks like they didn't have very good firewall.
Well, John Podesta, his password was password, PASSWORD. That was his password. So there was not a lot of security there.
You come full circle to Normandy and the valor and the courage of 73 years ago. And you're right. These people the Hillary and Podestas wanted to head up and be commander-in-chief and head up our national security. They couldn't even keep a server or a phone secure. Thank God. Things changed.
God they're not there. Hey, JD, we're up against our first break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with JD Manier and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Today's show, like all our shows, is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Don't go away. JD and I will be right back with more news and commentary, and we'll let you know who our guests are.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Angle, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Angle and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonAngle.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373. Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with J.D. Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcasts of our show, please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at 11 a.m. log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com, or you can hear our show any time of the day from your phone by calling 832-999 888-866-1199. JD, we have three great guests joining us today.
Well, we do. It's always exciting to do radio with you, and the lineup is supreme. Again today, Dale Bellis, Executive Director of Liberty HealthShare. And Rick, you know a little bit about Mr. Bellis because they are one of our sponsors. We have Tim Dasher from the Heritage Foundation. He's going to report on the May jobs report. Got to talk to Tim previously, and he works with Stephen Moore, former Wall Street Journal editorialist. You see Stephen Moore quite a bit on Fox News, and he's got some interesting perspective on what happened in the jobs perspective. There were some good and some bad. One thing I have to point out is a great increase in mining and a decrease in government jobs. So that was some of the good news, but listen to what Tim Dasher has to say, one of our Heritage Foundation experts. And a Seton Motley of less government. I know that just kind of rings off your lips sometimes.
I love having Seton join us because I love hearing that less government.
He did a recent article that said, hey, leftists, racist threats and stalking homes and families is not thoughtful policy debate. And another case where we're more or less blowing the whistle on the leftists who would seek to destroy. And the civility level has gone out the window in a lot of the cases here across America. And Seton's a great man to point that out. Back to reality, Rick. Reality winner, a leftist. She was a great, I'm reading from Newsmax, but she was a great supporter of Bernie Sanders and then Hillary. And it looks like, according to Newsmax, she strongly supported the Women's March and the Muslim Civil Rights Group, the Islamic Society of North America. So this young lady felt that it was okay to break federal laws and compromise national security for her ideology. It's just a simple case of that. Mm-hmm. And, she basically did pretty much what Hillary did in breaking national security statutes. But she may be the one who actually gets now, Rick. I think she may get some prison time.
What law do you think she is broken?
Statute 82. It quote the number because I heard it earlier today. But contractors, federal employees, which included Hillary, swear an oath to protect the Constitution and to not leak, disseminate, photocopy. There's a long list, paragraph after paragraph, of how they are not to reveal national security documents. And that's what she did.
Well, how did she get a hold of national security documents?
She was a federal contractor, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Working for the NSA. Yeah, and actually, it's her name. A very unusual name. Her name is Reality Winner. That is the lady's name.
Oh, that's her name.
That's her, yeah. And I was caught off guard too, Rick. Reality Winner. Yeah.
When you're talking about Reality Winner, I thought you were talking about some kind of a reality show like The Voice or America's Got Talent or something like that.
When I first heard it this morning, I thought the same thing. I go, well, that's interesting. Her middle name is Leah. Reality Leah Winner. She's a former Air Force linguist. She speaks Middle East languages like Pashto, Farsi, and Dari. This might set things out where there's all these leakers. The Trump administration from the first minute he took office, we've just seen leak after leak, damaging national security information, always trying to cycle back stuff to whatever liberal media outlet they can find to try to damage Trump's administration, President Trump. And this is another case, but she may do some jail time, and I hope she does, because that could set the precedent now and let everybody know, look, the swamp is being drained, and do you want to be the next one? And hopefully make us have a more secure nation, a republic, because the leaks, whether it be FBI, CIA, there's 17 intel agencies up there, and they've been horrible, as our listeners know. Hey, got another thought.
Okay.
D-Day, we talked about London. London has had so many stabbings and terrorist attacks, but 173 years ago, they were founding the YMCA. Well, as our men and women, fought at Normandy, our men scaled the cliffs. Now it looks like there's another attacker in Notre Dame, the cathedral in Paris. Did you hear about that?
No, I did not.
Gosh, today, this guy came with a hammer and tried to take out a security officer with a hammer. Looks like over in London they use machetes and knives and box trucks. this guy had a hammer, and this just happened, I think, in the last 24 hours, and he harmed the officer, but the officer was able to use his weapon and subdue the guy, shoot him. And he said he did it for Syria. So I think it's another, they're investigating as a terrorist attack. This month of Ramadan has really been amazing across the globe. There was a shootout with a ISIS believer in Melbourne, Australia last night. Police had to end up killing a guy who took hostage, killed one person, and he took hostage this woman. The police, 50 police officers, eventually gathered around this apartment, and they killed this guy. So things are happening across the globe. You know, when Trump talks about, hey, let's enforce my travel ban, I mean, it's just playing out across the country, across the globe. I think it's proving him right every day. What say you, Rick?
Oh, I totally agree with you. And JD, do you remember me about 3 months ago going off to a rant, almost a rage, how this political correctness is killing us? I mean, this political correctness is literally killing us. And yet there are a lot of people who go, oh, if we just get along with these people, if we just take them into our countries, we can show that we're good people, and they'll want to be good people too. They'll want to be just like us. Baloney, JD, they only know one thing, and that is to kill. They only know that they want to push their agenda. They want to push their way of life in spite of what we want our way of life to be. It's killing us, JD. This political correctness is killing.
Well, and now they're going to have an election in probably less than 48 hours. It'll get started over there in England. And I watched Trump tweet to the Muslim mayor. You know, the Muslim mayor of London said, we're the safest major city in the world.
Oh, sure.
I'm saying,
sure. That's
really?
Why all those people are dead today. Because they're the safest Muslim city in the world, right?
Yeah, and Trump is a man who will take on this political correctness. You know, that's one of the planks. That's in his soul. We have to drain the swamp, and we certainly have to fight back against political correctness because it's killed. And Rick, I mean, we're talking to tunes of millions harmed. I mean, think 8 years of Obama and what happened over in the Middle East. He got that whole thing going. Yep. He helped create ISIS. Him and Hillary, Trump said they're the founders, and he got maligned, but certainly there's so much truth in that. And what do we have? We have, just think back a few years ago, and millions and millions of immigrants coming out of Syria, Iraq, through Turkey, Greece, up into what is now Paris, what is now, of course, all throughout Europe. And we're seeing this month of Ramadan bear out the fruit. These folks are very vigilant, very, very dangerous, and we must respond with courage, just as they did.
Well, JD, you're absolutely right. We have Barack Obama to thank for ISIS. There's a terrific series of shows that's on PBS called Frontline. A couple of the shows are about the creation of ISIS. And even PBS's Frontline has said that a large responsibility for the creation of ISIS is Barack Obama. JD, we are up against the break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with JD Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader. We're coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Don't go away. On the other side, we're going to have our very first guest, Dale Bellis from Liberty Health Shares.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
The you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Engel, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Engel and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonEngel.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373, Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Well, our next guest, Dale Bellis, is currently the Executive Director of Liberty HealthShare. He led the reorganization plan that launched Liberty HealthShare under the terms of the Affordable Care Act for healthcare sharing ministries. Liberty HealthShare dates its origins to the mid-1980s. Mr. Bellis began his work in healthcare as an executive administrator with the first cost-sharing group ever begun in modern times. With experience in both secular healthcare plans and cost-sharing ministries, Mr. Bellis founded Liberty HealthShare in 2012 to provide Americans with an alternative to government-mandated healthcare. Dale, welcome back to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Oh, it is such a pleasure to be with you, Rick. Thank you so very much for the invitation.
Well, for our listeners, just simply tell us, how did Liberty HealthShare get started?
It was really a result of the Affordable Care Act being passed and put into motion and into place in 2010, where a colleague of mine and myself just really saw that there needed to be a way for the average, ordinary American to be able to manage, direct, and control their health care without government intrusion and the violation of our conscience. And we're all familiar with some of the more laudable cases where there was pushback against the ACA mandating certain kinds of treatments that were contrary to closely held beliefs of conscience. And that was just really a motivation for us. Let's provide this kind of place for the average American joining together on those kinds of ethical and religious values. So we launched in 2012, started adding members in 2013, and today we have well over 60,000 households, about 145,000 individual lives participating in our cost-sharing community across the nation.
Well, Dale, how does it work in detail?
Well, yeah, thank you for asking. It's really a simple proposition that we each take responsibility for the care of our health. We're all self-pay patients responsible for not only the care of our health, but those and the costs associated with it. And we share those costs in community with one another, and we each, as a member family, set aside a predetermined share amount every month. It's $199 for a single, $299 for a couple, $449 for a family of three or more. We don't count more than three. And that goes into our online secure account. We call it a share box. And that share amount is then matched to another member who has medical expenses that month. So we pay each other's medical costs based upon our technology, and then we cut a check directly out of that member's online account to the doctors and hospitals. So every month we're participating with and sharing in another member's medical expenses. Then if we have an expense, those same members are there to assist us in paying our bills.
That sounds very interesting. Talk some more about how you keep the cost down then.
Well, it's really kind of a three-legged stool. One is because we are all self-pay patients, it's our money at stake. It's our pockets as well as the pockets of our fellow members whenever we stand at that counter. It really motivates each of us to really focus on costs, eliminate unnecessary treatments, evaluate our treatment plan, and really be focused on costs because it's our money at stake. And that's really a huge distinction and difference, frankly, Rick, with the existing health insurance model. We're assisting and sharing on a mutual basis and our costs, and it's our money. That's number one. Number two, we do access deep discounts in the marketplace. And many people may or may not realize that what a provider will receive in settlement for a particular service and charge that they may have sent is far different, far below what the billing was for that. And so we access those kinds of discounts, number two. And number three, it's really a function of our health consciousness. That is because it's our money at stake. We want to do those things that promote health and the minimization of expense. And so our health-conscious community really has fewer bills, recover more quickly, fewer visits to the hospital. All three of those things work together for a very efficient and cost-efficient way of meeting healthcare costs.
That's so interesting, Dale. What are the minimum and maximum amounts, though, of medical bills? I think our listeners would kind of like to get some numbers on that. That's so neat.
Yeah, we share in medical bills after what we call our annual unshared amount. It's $500 for a single, double that for a couple, $1,000, three times that, or $1,500 for a family. So when I go to the doctor, I'm a family participating. I hand them my ID card. They send that medical bill based upon the instructions on the ID card. They have an address either electronically or by mail to send it. It lands here at Liberty Health Share. We process it according to each individual's member account, and then it lands in our online share box, and I see what that doctor has charged and the adjustments to it. So we each individually see that process in place every time we have a medical bill.
What everyone talks about lately, the pre-existing conditions. Please address that.
Yeah, and that's a fair question. As a nonprofit sharing community, we set our own rules regarding the kinds of bills that we'll share in. In fact, we call them our sharing guidelines. And it's really a two-part way in which we deal with pre-existing. It's a stair-step kind of approach to pre-existing bills. If I join the organization and ministry today, the first year that I'm a member, we don't share in costs associated with pre-existing. The second and third year up to $50,000, and after 3 years, it's no longer considered pre-existing. So that's number one. Number two, though, is 80% of all the pre-existing conditions, Rick, that are presented to us have to do with lifestyle-based chronic diseases. We welcome that. And when I say chronic conditions, it's high blood pressure, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and smoking. We accept smokers, by the way. They have to just commit to quit. But we assign those lifestyle-based conditions a health coach. The individual member creates a process, an objective, their own treatment plan for meeting their health management goals, assigned by a health coach that helps walk them through those lifestyle changes, how to eat, how to exercise, do all the kinds of things that we always want to do, but don't have the support system to get it done. And then they reach those goals. They graduate from Health Track, we call it. That's an additional $80 per month. And we just incorporate those pre-existing conditions right into our sharing ministry and organization because they're on a health track to make changes in their lifestyle that will, in many cases, reverse and disease and change it. And we're changing people's lives, frankly, as a result of that program.
Dale, is there a health screening required for membership approval?
We call it a health history questionnaire that a member simply lists out all of the existing and current treatments or medications or, experience in the last 36 months. And we, again, if it's a minor kind of pre-existing condition, we don't share in it in that first year, but that is all listed out and presented for our review as a member comes in the intake process. So everybody's advised those exactly what conditions they're being addressed, or if they're suitable and qualify for our Health Track program, which we really enjoy.
When you join, are you obligated for a period of time, or can you drop out at any time?
Boy, you can drop out at any time. It's completely voluntary, it's cooperative, and it's based upon a set of shared values or shared beliefs. We're a Christian ministry. We're based on Christian values, and individuals simply review those shared beliefs to see that they're compatible. We don't intrude on individual choices or doctrinal statements or church attendance. It's just, do you agree with this set of values and beliefs? If so, you're welcome to join us, and it's voluntary and cooperative. As long as it meets an individual's need and they wish to participate, they certainly can.
What if someone's unable to make one monthly contribution or they're late? How does that play out?
Yeah, we have a 60-day period, just a grace period, that allows a person to catch up. If they're not able to make that particular level of participation or commitment, we have other sharing programs they can shift to that would be a lesser financial commitment. Or if they need to take a break for a time and then come back and become active again, we can do that. So there's any number of choices and options, but we have a 60-day period to help make up those current share amounts, or they can make adjustments going forward based upon their particular circumstances.
You know, I keep hearing in my mind this concept of wellness. You know, it's you're there not just as a third-party insurer, but you're there to change somebody's life. Talk a bit about that, because that's a new concept, I think, for a lot of people.
Man, you have put your finger right on it, Rick, that the third-party pay system has created an entire a range of flaws in our healthcare system. The first being, frankly, that if it's somebody else's money, an insurance company, the government, an employer, I don't have a very high level of motivation to make changes in my life. If I'm dipping into somebody else's pocket to pay my healthcare costs. But when it's my dollars at stake, it's a high level of motivation, and that's really what makes the distinction and the difference with us. The members that join us and participate with HealthTrack are doing so voluntarily and cooperatively because we're simply helping them reach goals and objectives that they already want to do. They just simply need the assistance, support, and guidance to pull it off. And that's true of a vast, vast majority of us. And we do know that through the science of change, if I'm making a change of lifestyle, I just need the support system and friendly accountability to pull that off. And that's what HealthTrack does for us.
What do I say, Dale, to my doctor or at the hospital when you need the medical care? Our listeners are really interested in how this really nuts and bolts takes place.
Well, fair enough. A member has the choice to go to any doctor, any hospital they choose. And in the vast majority of cases, hospitals or doctors look at our ID card. They may call us for some explanation, but they just simply process the ID card and send the billing according to those instructions. So we don't have a network that you're confined to. You go to any doctor, hospital, and literally 97% of physicians, doctors, hospitals simply accept our ID card, send the billing, and participate. There's a small number that we reach out to, we negotiate with, we help bring their level of understanding, and help bring resolution to that member's bills.
You know, how does my doctor or the hospital get paid then?
Well, the payment comes directly after the bill is received, and we put it in your online account. We ask then a sufficient number of members to participate in that. Let's say it's a $10,000 hospital bill. We'd ask a sufficient number of singles, couples, and families that their share dollars would go to your expense, and we cut the check directly out of your account to the hospital. So after all the adjustments are made, the discounts are secured, the members share in it, and we cut the check directly to the hospital. And our typical turnaround time is 30 days for all that to happen.
Dale, we'll come up against a hard commercial break. Can you just stay with us for a few minutes?
I'd be delighted to stay with you.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast of our shows, please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at 11 a.m., log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com. And now you can hear our show any time of the day from your phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our guest this segment is Dale Bellis, President and CEO of Liberty Health Share. Dale, thanks for holding through that break. We do appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Delight to be with you.
Dale, during the interview with JD, you were talking about people that smoke, and you asked them to commit to quit smoking. What happens if they don't?
Well, again, a part of the HealthTrack program is smoking cessation. Mm-hmm. And we have a set of guidelines and a pathway to follow to help that individual member stop smoking. And then we set up a series of checks following those the completion of that smoking cessation program to just make sure they're compliant with their objective to stop smoking. And some people complete that in a very short window because they're highly motivated to quit smoking. Others have a greater level of struggle, which we fully understand and cooperate and are sympathetic with. But in either case, we just help lead them to a stop smoking status with occasional checks to make sure they just follow through on that.
Yeah. Also, you were talking about the health history questionnaire. What kind of questions are asked on that? And to complete this questionnaire, do people have to go to their doctor?
No, they don't have to go to their doctor. We don't ask for a paramedic study or a doctor visit, none of that. It's just really asking questions about their health history, particularly within the last 3 years. Because any condition with symptoms, medication, or treatment within the last 3 years fits within our pre-existing definition. And so it's just, have you been to a doctor lately in the last 3 years? Any existing conditions? Are you taking any current medications, et cetera? And so that just helps us evaluate not only their fitness for healthcare sharing, making sure that they understand our pre-existing conditions standards, but whether or not they would be particularly suitable for Health Track. So those are the kinds of questions that are included. Let me just add, Rick, that I myself am a Health Track member. I have type 2 diabetes. So I meet with my health coach regularly, review my blood sugar levels, my practice in terms of lifestyle, exercise, eating, my weight control, all those kinds of things, just simply because I'm motivated, as well as all of our other members, to maintain health and encourage ourselves to really take care of our bodies as temples. And so I personally find the Health Track program to be incredibly motivating and beneficial for me personally.
Dale, you and JD were talking about cancellation, but can people be dropped from Liberty Health shares?
Yeah, we call it a share amount, and obviously as long as they continue to participate and share with others, they're eligible for the community to share with them. No one can be dropped because they get too sick. Mm-hmm. In fact, interestingly, Rick, that is a part of the exemption that we enjoy under the Affordable Care Act. One of the standards for a exempt healthcare sharing ministry is that you cannot drop someone because they get too ill. And so once someone joins with us and participates, they're with us throughout the duration of whatever their condition may be, and they can rest content in our commitment to stand with them during those kinds of episodes.
Dale, the more I hear about Liberty Health shares, the more I wonder why this is a model for the country. I mean, even despite Obamacare, a lot of people are still not being covered. This seems to be a responsible way to go about it.
Well, it's kind of you to say. I would like to think that it is such a model, but there's a twofold parameter to healthcare sharing that makes it so efficient. Number one is a commitment to manage, direct, and control your own health care.
Yes.
If I'm used to a third-party pay system where somebody else looks over my shoulder, takes care of my costs, and arranges for and directs the care of my health, it may not be suited for me. If I'm oriented to that kind of a system where suddenly, really, truly, I'm a self-pay patient. I'm now on my own, and I set the parameters for the care of my health. That is a mindset, a paradigm shift that not everybody is willing to take, number one. And number two, healthcare sharing is based upon ordinary commonly accepted Christian values. And it may be that they're just not oriented not only to be taking responsibility, but really motivated to participate with others, because God's placed us here on this earth to share our resources and time and effort and finance with others. And that's really the premise of our sharing organization.
Well, you know, Dale, I think one of the fallacies of Obamacare or any national health care system or idea is the idea that there is a safety net that can catch everyone. Even with Obamacare, there are people who are still not covered. I still see Liberty Health Share as a common sense solution for people to protect themselves and their families.
Well, that's why we frankly have dropped out of the health insurance model, because you've put your finger on one of its flaws. And that's why we've now moved, Liberty Health Share members have moved to a different basis for meeting healthcare costs, mutual aid, mutual assistance, where we not only care, but we share in each other's medical expenses. One thing I failed to mention, Rick, that I need to, is that one of the features of our monthly sharing system, where I set my share amount aside and it's then matched to another member, I can message them with cheer, encouragement, or prayer. And like a true social community, we stand together sometimes during the biggest crises of our lives. And that simply builds intercommunication and community, and that's why we see such follow through and participation and commitment, because we are truly, I call it relational health care. We're truly relating to one another, and there's a face behind that person that I'm participating with every month. My money is going to another person, not some company dark hole.
You know, Dale, you and JD were also talking about the deductibles. I've had a couple of hip replacements, and therefore, whenever I see somebody limping around that looks like they need a hip replacement, I like to encourage them to get it done, because, frankly, it gave me my life back again. There is a lady who goes to our church who needs a hip replacement but can't have it done because her deductible under Obamacare is $6,000.
Well, we have member participation, obviously, in the costs associated with our care, and what we call an annual unshared amount, and we don't use that term ill-advisedly. We use different terminology from the insurance world, primarily to communicate we're not insurance, we don't want to be, and so we use a different terminology in terms of annual unshared amount, but our members decide what that amount should be, and in the case of a family, it's $1,500, and then we start sharing in eligible expenses up to $1 million per incident. And by an incident, just as you've described, a hip replacement, all of the pain medication, the surgery, the hospital stay, the follow-up doctor visits, everything associated with that episode of care is considered an incident, and we'll share in those eligible expenses up to $1 million for each incident.
Del Bellis, Liberty Health Share. Please tell our audience, for more information, where can they go?
Best way, honestly, is at libertyhealthshare.org. libertyhealthshare.org. That's our website. There's a phone number there, toll-free number. You can call our contact center, talk to one of our trusted advisors there, make sure healthcare sharing is suited and applicable to you. Or you can ask for a free information packet. We call it a decision guide. Right there on our website, just give some brief information. It comes delivered electronically to your email or by mail if you prefer, or just review the pages of the website and get all the information you can, because frankly, it is a mindset change. It's a paradigm shift as to the way in which we meet healthcare costs, but libertyhealthshare.org is the best place to go.
Dale Bellis, one more thing. Whenever I do an interview like this, I'm wondering what question I'm not answering or not question I'm not asking that perhaps someone out there would like to know. What question are you asked most often?
Yeah, it for me, it is make sure that you are compatible with or associated with the sharing lifestyle, the sharing mentality, because we're in this together. It is our dollars at stake. So I'm making choices and decisions not only about my care, but whenever I engage with or become a healthcare consumer, I'm keeping in mind my fellow members and their pockets as well. And that's a mentality that we have to be compatible with, and that's what makes healthcare sharing so efficient and unique.
Del Billis, Liberty Health Share. Please tell our audience one more time where they can go for more information. LibertyHealthShare.org, LibertyHealthShare.org is the best place to go. Del Billis, thank you so much for joining us. Take care. God bless. And thank you so much for your support to the Conservative Commandos radio show. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. God bless.
Take care. God. Okay, we are up against the break, and you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Menier and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Don't go away. JD and I will be right back with our next guest.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty Health Share as a sponsor. Liberty Health Share is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty Health Share exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty Health Share. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Engel, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Engel and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonAngle.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373, Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
This is J.D. Manier. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 11 a.m., log on to rednationrisingradio.com, or you can log on at midnight to redstatetalkradio.com. Our next guest, Tim Deutscher, is a special assistant and research associate for the Institute for Economic Freedom and Opportunity for the Heritage Foundation. Welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Tim.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on.
I really enjoyed your recent article in the Daily Signal titled, May Jobs Report Leaves the U.S. Begging for Economic Reforms. You know, and you said it's kind of bleak. Well, you're not really criticizing Trump, so go ahead and explain what's going on to our audience.
I don't want to be too much of a downer. I want to take the good with the good, and there is some good in this thing, but really the overarching message is if we want really, really good, we need to have some serious reforms done right here in Washington, not just through executive action, which the president has been doing, but also getting Congress on board to pass things like tax reform and pass things, substantive regulation reform, and how about even welfare reform? How about we get people working again? That would be really, really incredible.
Well, amen. And all the above. It sounds like you want to drain the swamp.
I think that we're on board for doing that here at the Heritage Foundation. Absolutely. Yes. But if I just could just give a little bit of a picture here, and just to catch you up a little bit, we showed an increase of 138,000 jobs, which is down from 174 last month, and it's even further down from about 220 the month before that. And this isn't really anything, at least from what we can see, from the Trump administration. Really what it is it's just we believe the people that are higher out there are just not feeling as confident as they should be to have jobs that entice people to get back in the labor force and start looking for jobs again and start taking jobs again. So we believe that through substantive policy reform here in D.C., we can see these numbers get even greater, even larger. It happened with Reagan in the 80s, and it can happen again right now.
Well, please explain, Tim, to our listeners about the different unemployment rates the federal government's Bureau of Labor Statistics puts out. You know, there's a U6 and U3, sure. and kind of explain what's going on there to our listeners.
Sure, absolutely. Well, here's the bottom line. The U3 paints part of the picture. They call that the unemployment rate. That's just the standard unemployment rate. And
it fell. It fell, actually.
It fell. By a miracle, it fell. It's the lowest it's been in nearly 16 years. And so you'd think, hey, that's a good thing. But what it doesn't count is it doesn't count the people that have completely dropped out of the workforce. And when I used to have a hard time understanding that, and for your listeners, I'll explain that. What happens is the Bureau of Labor Statistics makes a phone call. They do essentially polling. They call homes. They call people in a sample, and they say, are you working? Are you looking for work? Are you working part-time, full-time, all that stuff. And that's how they put this report together. So when they're calling people are essentially saying, I'm not even looking for a job anymore. So then they call that number the U6 unemployment number, which measures the total unemployed plus those marginally attached to the labor force, part-timers, and those who have given up for work. So we tend to think that the U6 number paints a little bit more accurate of a picture of what's happening in the job market. And the U6 number is still 8.4%. So it's quite higher than the 4.3% unemployment number in the U3. So what really that means is that essentially that labor force participation rate, and I know this gets confusing, but just hear me, just let me try and explain it to you a little bit clearer. The labor force participation rate shows anyone in this country that could be working and that isn't working. And the labor force participation rate actually dropped last month. Lower.
That's not good.
And it's not good. It's not good. That means that people are dropping out of the labor force. They're not looking for jobs, and that's also the reason why the unemployment rate, the U3 number, dropped, is because the unemployment rate doesn't count and factor in those people that have given up looking. But we see that several, hundreds of thousands of people are dropping out of the labor force. And so our argument is we need companies to have an incentive to offer jobs that entice people to get back in the workforce. This isn't all just people that are retiring, dropping out of the workforce, or people, older people just dropping out. These are people that actually could be working. And we just need to have an environment, an economic environment where companies feel confident to raise wages, which, by the way, wages are pretty much stagnant since 2015. So this really is a time for Washington to shine.
What are some of the prescriptions you would like to see put in place to get the nearly 95 million Americans back to work, Tim?
Isn't that an amazing number? 95 million Americans. It's incredible. There are several things that can happen. One of them is you got to get rid of Obamacare. Fully repeal Obamacare. It is a drainer. You've heard of the 49ers number?
Mm-hmm.
It essentially means that, small businesses who want to hire more than 50 people have to provide health insurance. That's a mandate, which is keeping companies from hiring more people. It's saying we're just going to make things more efficient. We're not going to grow as much. We're going to do as much as we can under 50 employees so we can avoid having to give health insurance to people. And that is a huge thing that's killing job growth. How about passing fundamental tax reform? How about lowering the rates? We have the highest corporate rate in the entire world, the developed world. Nearly 40%. It's incredible. Why not just lower that rate down? Bring some of that money back to America. Bring some of that investment back here. And then the other thing that I really make the case for is how about welfare reform? The people that are collecting food stamps currently is still record high. And that's not keeping people, getting people enough motivation to get back in the labor force if they have that safety net there.
Well, there's some measures just in the last week. President Trump withdrew from the U.S. from the Paris Climate Change Agreement. That should bode well. I mean, that should create more jobs. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, we have been really, really fierce advocates for withdrawing from the Paris Agreement, and not just doing the prescribed withdrawal from the agreement, but we just think withdrawing from the UNFCCC, which is the United Nations portion of the agreement. We think that that's the best way to do it. Just completely be done with it. Not hang around for 3 more years or 2 more years or however long it's going to take to fully withdraw. We think getting out as soon as possible is the best thing because it's causing the uncertainty, it's causing the unfair burden on business to have to essentially be regulated out of existence. You talk to coal miners, you talk to people attached to the energy industry. I mean, these are several million jobs here in the U.S., and they're all at danger and all at risk with some of these goals that President Obama essentially unilaterally, without congressional approval, went about and got us into. And I also want to say, when talking about energy business, I mean, one incredible thing about the jobs report that we have to say is since Trump was elected, almost 50,000 new mining jobs have been added. They've been created. And we think that that's an incredible sign. We see that just executive regulation reform alone can inspire the hiring of tens of thousands of people who may have been out of work because of federal government regulation. So that really is a good thing. But in terms of the Paris Agreement, it's a very, very good time in Washington here, especially for business owners and people who don't want to pay more for electricity simply because of the act of man-made climate change.
Tim, we're coming up against a hard commercial break. Can you just stay with us, and we'll bring you right back. We want to talk about this jobs report and how we can get America moving again economically. And we're coming to you live. This is J.D. Manier on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. And we're around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the Internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty Health Share as a sponsor. Liberty Health Share is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty Health Share exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty Health Share. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Engel, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Engel and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonEngel.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373. Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader, the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Well, this is J.D. Manier again, and if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 11 a.m., you can log on to Red Nation Rising Radio. Or at midnight, log on to Red State Talk Radio, both.coms. We're talking with Tim Desher of the Heritage Foundation about this recent May jobs report and what America can do to be pro-growth and proactive and turn things around. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Tim.
Great to be back.
You know, looking on the brighter side of things, consumer optimism is rated higher since Trump took over than at any time. And we'd like to let you talk a bit about that. You know, can Trump get us to 3 and 6% growth, 3, 4, 5% growth?
I don't think Trump can get us to 3% growth. I think he can get us to 4%. I think he can get us to 5%. I think that the sky is the limit with America, with the ingenuity that we have. And I know that sounds Pollyannish to some economists, but this is really the case. The ultimate resource we have, what did Julian Simon say, is our mind. And if we have regulation that allows us to stretch and flex our mind and our capability, we can beat a shrinking labor force. We can encourage more innovation and things like that. We can do that. Not to say that we don't have challenges, but there's no question that we can get that growth target up there. But just look at what Reagan did. Again, I'm looking at the numbers here. I printed these off just so we could see. In 1982, we see constant losses in the jobs numbers, constant losses. Each month, 1982, getting beaten. And then in 1983, we start seeing a turnaround. In September of 1983, we saw over 1 million jobs created in 1 month. I mean, this is doable if you put the right reforms in place, if you grind your teeth and you just get it done. Pass tax reform. Lower those rates, broaden the base. You're gonna see your revenues increase. You're gonna see companies invest more, and you're gonna really see a new renaissance happen through optimism of the private sector, allowed by the government getting out of the way.
Well, amen again. I know Senator Rand Paul. He wants to implement what's called the REINS Act this year, regulations from the executive in need of scrutiny. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because that's some of the regulatory burden that can be sliced, I believe, right there, and take that off the people's backs here in America.
Absolutely. We are for broad regulation reduction and reform. And, I haven't looked into the REINS Act too much, but I will echo Senator Paul's sentiments in wanting to do everything possible, an all-hands-on-deck approach to going through the agencies, going through the laws, going through everything, and making it a seamless process to understand the business impact that it will have. Understand, putting ourselves in the shoes of business owners. That's a common thing here in Washington. Is we love to have the fix. We love to have a white paper policy that we can sell and it sounds good on the air. But we don't actually know because nobody out here owns a business. Nobody out here has people that expect, need, and rely on a paycheck every month. Nobody out here is worried about growing for their future. And so what we need to do is we need to continue to put ourselves in the shoes of business, talking to businesses, understanding what they need and how they need to grow. And really that's the kind of thing that's going to inspire regulatory reform, I think, one of the things that will. That and being able to have a stiff spine, stand up to like you said, the swamp monsters out here in Washington.
Well, and energy policy, very pro-growth so far with Trump, but it takes a little while for that to manifest, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but at the same time, though, with an energy policy, I mean, with those mining numbers, you see that it happens immediately. I mean, think about it. Think about the last 10 years, what's happened through fracking. Who would have thought that we would be one of the world's leading energy producers just 10 years ago? Nobody would have thought that. We were at peak oil. We were, we were in dire circumstances back then. And then through the power of the free market, we see that now now we're battling energy policy, trying to help us to grow our energy sector even more. And so I just think that it can happen quickly. Of course, it's a lot to unravel, but it doesn't take a lot to inspire the free market to innovate, I don't believe.
And this all starts with Congress, doesn't it? I mean, in getting Obamacare repealed and replaced, and putting forth the president's tax reforms. Now, I just read that Senator Ron Johnson thinks it's going to be easier to do the tax reform, but we need both, and we need both soon, as well as a new budget. Talk about that.
Absolutely, that is imperative that we pass a tax rate reduction by the end of the year. It's imperative that we get rid of Obamacare by the end of the year. I would say by next week. I want it as soon as possible. I'm not saying that we should wait to the end of the year. I'm saying that it needs to be done, though, because of the political climate out here, all of that stuff. It's amazing how quick politicians start thinking about themselves and getting reelected and not thinking about doing the hard work that it takes to make this economy grow again. And I just wanted to point this out, too. I can't leave this program without telling you, last year we averaged 1.9% growth. I mean, that is pathetic, considering we have a 3.3% average in the recent future. Or, excuse me, the recent past. It really is incredible. And now in the future, we're saying we can't even get 3%. And I just think that that's completely wrong. I think that it's completely wrong, and the things that we need to do need to happen immediately. And I think that they should, and I think that they can.
Well, you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, housing, and 1/6 of the economy is health care, and of course, and welfare reform. If you want to touch on welfare reform again, I think that's a key. We have about just 2.5 minutes left, but go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, we have seen a record number. I mean, just go on. If you we have a chart that we made, and it's the most basic chart ever. But really, what it just tracks is how far food stamps have grown since Obama took office. I mean, it is incredible. I think we're up to 45 million people receiving food stamp benefits. I mean, that's really incredible. Like you said, with housing, record numbers of people receiving assistance in housing, record numbers of people around the state receiving welfare. And these are all things that, again, like I said earlier, these are all things that keep people out of the labor force. These are all things that instead of going to work and climbing the ladder there, wherever that is, you stay at home and you receive the sure bet.
Yeah.
And that just fundamentally, that's morally that I feel is wrong. And so, and of course it's not good for us economically either, because we just continue to grow that debt. We continue to dig ourselves deeper and deeper, and it really isn't helping anything. So that's all I would say with that. And I think that there is definitely value to requiring work, requiring people to be employed in order to receive benefits. Absolutely. And so we would love to see that being taken on, but we'll see what the president and Congress thinks.
In the Trump budget, you add that piece of the puzzle, and getting a firm budget that works to reduce the deficit should help the markets incredibly. And go ahead. We have about a minute left. But
sure.
About that issue.
Absolutely. Well, we at the Heritage Foundation, some of the brilliant people here at the Heritage Foundation put together an incredible model budget for the president to review and implement, and a lot of that has actually been included in the White House budget goals.
Speaking about that, though, we are coming against that hard break, and I'm pulling the rug quicker than I thought with you. But how can our listeners read your writings and support the Heritage Foundation Tim, do you have a website?
Great, thanks. Yeah, you can visit theDailySignal.com, DailySignal.com, and you can see everything that we have there. You can read all of our expert analysis and commentary. It's a very, very valuable, awesome resource. So you can go to theDailySignal.com and, of course, heritage.org.
Well, Tim, it's great having you on the Commando Radio Show. We want to bring you back. Tim Desher of the Economic Freedom Opportunity Institute with the Heritage Foundation. God bless. Thank you for coming on the Commando Radio Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty Health Share as a sponsor. Liberty Health Share is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty Health Share exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty Health Share. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty Health Share today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Engel, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Engel and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonEngel.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373, Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
is J.D. Manier, and if you'd like to hear rebroadcasts of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com, or at 11 a.m. Log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to Red State Talk Radio, both.com. Our next guest, Seton Motley, is president of Less Government, a D.C.-based nonprofit organization dedicated to reducing the power of government and protecting the First Amendment from government assault. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Seton.
Thank you very much, sir.
I really liked your article in Red State recently titled, "Hey, Leftists, Racist Threats and Stalking Homes and Families is Not Thoughtful Policy Debate." Please summarize that piece for our listeners, if you would.
Okay. One of the things, of course, we as conservatives and constitutionalists really don't like is when laws are written by bureaucracies rather than the Congress, because we don't elect the bureaucrats, and we can't unelect them if we don't like what they're doing. And, of course, it's unconstitutional because they're members of the executive branch and are supposed to be executing laws passed by the legislative branch first. So once they get off the reservation, there's no limit, realistically, to what they're doing. Well, in an effort to put some sort of veneer of democratic process to these bureaucratic power grabs, they've started having comment periods on the regulations they're jamming through. And this is, of course, absurd because they don't listen to these things. They just do what they want to do, and they have these goofy comment periods, and then they do whatever they want to do. I think it's the actor who plays Iron Man who's pulling a blank. Who's the actor?
Oh, the Marvel movies, yeah.
Who's the actor? Robert Downey Jr., who's pretty libertarian conservative. He said you can't go from a $5,000 a night hotel room to a jail cell and not pay attention and not learn something. But he said my key to success is nod, say yes, nod, say yes, nod, say yes, and then go do what you wanted to do anyway. And that's pretty much these comment periods at these bureaucracies. They just, thanks for all the comments, and now we're going to do what we're going to do in the first place. And that's what's going on here. Well, President Donald Trump has appointed as chairman of the Federal Communications Commission a former, he basically promoted him from commissioner to chairman. And his name is Ajit Pai. And Ajit Pai is the son of Indian immigrants from the country of India. They moved from India to rural Kansas. I'm sure that was some sort of culture shock, but that's where Ajit Pai was born. And so he, as required by these stupid rules, he's started a rulemaking process to undo the Barack Obama Title II reclassification of the Internet to then impose network neutrality, all of which is really stupid policy. Title II is based on 1934 landline phone law and 1887 railroad law, which, of course, overlays perfectly on the 21st century Internet. And he said, no, we're going to undo this. Obama did it in 2015. He's undoing it now. And so, of course, he's opened up to the first round of comments. And he's been flooded by a bunch of leftist netroot nuts who are screaming racist things and threatening him and saying he should die and he should go back, he should go back to India, which of course would make no sense because he'd have to go back to Kansas first. And just all of these obnoxious things that the left always does that not incidentally we always get blamed for. He's much closer to Dorothy than he is New Delhi. So all of these things come in. Now, that's one thing. And if you say, okay, these morons are faceless, nameless, morons on the net. However, these morons have been invading his neighborhood and going through his neighborhood and putting out and basically putting like, have you seen this man wanted posters with a picture of Ajit on like door hangers on their neighbor's house. Then it gets worse. They've been sitting at his house, looking in his windows, taking pictures inside his house, and then haranguing his wife and his two kids. Now, I'm sorry, after a long day of reading racist death threats, I don't think coming home to a bunch of these morons in my driveway to be a particularly pleasant turn of events. And he's been he's been a lot more magnanimous than I would be. He said, "Yeah, when they start harassing my wife and my kids, it's a bit of a hassle." No, it's a frickin' brute force intimidation of the chairman to try to scare him into not doing what he intends to do at his job at the regulatory agency. And again, is this some sort of what about showing up at his house, taking pictures of inside his windows and haranguing his family? What part of that is an argument against reclassifying the internet back to Title I?
Oh my!
What's the substantive debate points that are being made by doing that? And the answer is there aren't any. This is brute force intimidation, and it's obnoxious.
See, then the Obama administration wanted to label people with pro-life beliefs as domestic terrorists. But aren't all these acts of violence and intimidation by the leftists truly domestic terrorism?
Yeah, well, look, I wrote a piece last week called The Left, A History of Violence and Racism. And I go through the whole history. And, of course, Karl Marx said, accuse others of what you yourself do. And the left, of course, does that. The Tea Party was supposed to be this racist, violent group that never ever had any violence at any of their thousands and thousands of rallies, except for, of course, when the left started them. There was a story I wrote about when I was at Media Research Center years ago where 6 people were arrested, one of them a journalist, when the left stormed into a Tea Party rally and started beating people up. One of them was a reporter. How's that for media bias? We find out, thanks to James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, that the Democrats were hiring people to go and pick fights at Donald Trump rallies in 2015 and 2016. It's always the left. And to me, the quintessential example of successfully pulling off, Karl Marx's maxim of accusing others of what you do, somehow the Ku Klux Klan, which was started by the Democrat Party to murder blacks and the Republicans that helped them, has now been thoroughly ascribed to the Republican Party and the right wing. That's a win that I can't fathom. But yes, this is a history of violence. This is nothing new. These people, these morons showing up at Ajit Pai's house and haranguing his family and, stalking his house is nothing new. This is just another example of the left doing these sorts of things.
Well, they're just community organizers, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, except when they're blowing up communities. Hello, Weathermen, Weather Underground. So yeah, they're just community organizers.
You pointed out something about regulations. Wasn't last year about 3,000 regulations were put forth under President Obama, but only 250 some laws passed? But
that's been true for decades. Look, I saw some stat where for every one time someone goes to court to address being charged with a violation of a law, 10 times somebody goes to court for violating a regulation. So, I mean, this has been going on for decades, and that, it's the fourth estate that everybody talks about. It's this amorphous blob that is a regulatory state. And remember how much of a brouhaha Steve Bannon stirred up at CPAC this year when he said, "We're going to dismantle the administrative state." This is what he's talking about. And the left, this is why Trump is getting a level of vitriol and outrage from the left. Forget the never Trumpers on the right. The left is going insane in a way they never did with Bush. I know it seemed at the time like it was crazy, and it was, don't get me wrong, under Bush. But this is a whole new level of crazy.
A hard commercial break.
But the reason is because he's actually going about dismantling the state.
Yes, amen. Just hang with it just a couple seconds. Mm-hmm. J.D. Manier, and we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.
I'm Sharon Engel, and I approve this message. I'm more convinced than ever that a constitutional free market conservative can win even in a battleground state like Nevada. Nevada's Congressional District 2 is a winnable seat where Trump won because these voters embrace the principles of sound governance and constitutional free market conservatism. The reality is the president can lead, but he cannot do it alone. In Congress, we contend with the Republicans who often do not support what the American people mandated on Election Day. Republicans in D.C. could lose this golden opportunity, and sadly, the biggest beneficiaries will be the establishment and crony capitalism. America is closely divided, with Nevada on the front lines of this ideological battle. June 30th is the FEC fundraising deadline. I need to raise enough money to show that I have support to organize this campaign with literature, travel, media ads, and a small staff. Of course, the larger the amount, the more reticent others will be to challenge me in a contested primary, and the less credible the press attack will be. If you are one of the donors who will send $100 or more by June 30th, we will raise $100,000. That's good. If you give $250 or more, we raise $250,000. That's great. And if you give $500 or more, we raise $500,000. That's excellent. The more we raise in the beginning, the greater the odds are that we win. Please join me on Twitter at Sharon Engel and Facebook. Even though Reed is no longer in charge, the establishment machine lives on to defeat anyone who challenges the status quo of crony capitalism. You can help. Give online at SharonEngel.com or mail a contribution to P.O. Box 17373. Reno, Nevada 89511.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Schrader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
J.D. Manier, and if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 11 a.m., log on to Red Nation Rising Radio, or at midnight, log on to redstatetalkradio.com. We're with Seton Motley, president of Less Government. We're talking about his recent article titled, Hey, Leftists, Racist Threats and Stalking Homes and Families. That's not thoughtful policy debate. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, Seton.
Thank you very much, sir.
Do you find it ironic that President Trump has recently met with the Pope went to Israel and met with Middle East leaders to form a world coalition for peace. While these leftists back here, they're fomenting violence because they don't like President Trump, who is pushing for peace and safety.
Yeah, again, this is the media-led double standard and the old switcheroo where the Republicans are warmongers and violence mongers, and last time I looked, when was the last time Detroit voted Republican? How's their violence level doing? How about inner city Chicago? How about Gary, Indiana? How about L.A., South Central L.A.? When was the last time they voted Republican? It is the left that is the violent side of this equation. He's going around. He's of course our side understands. For instance, with the Manchester attack, the latest terrorist attack, he understands. You sign a peace accord after you win the war. You don't. The whole piece, and this is a little disappointing with Trump, is he's getting into this Sisyphus peace process with the Palestinians and the Israelis. For people who don't know Greek mythology, Sisyphus angered the gods, and his punishment for angering the gods was he spends the rest of eternity pushing a giant boulder up a mountain, only to watch it roll back down again. Then he has to go back down and push it back up again. That's the Israeli peace process. And you only get that way if you let Israel be Israel. The Palestinians are not a legitimate negotiator. To meet with a boss is to meet with a terrorist, Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority. And so what you need to do is let Israel be Israel, clean out these areas, and then say, and then have the losing side, which would be the Palestinians, I'm almost certain, and have them, sue for peace. And say, okay, we lost. We had these disputed territories, the Gaza Strip, which they gave back, the Golan Heights, and the West Bank, which are only disputed because 6 Arab nations teamed up, launched a war against Israel. Israel fought them all off, won, and then took those territories because they were strategically important to not get attacked again. And I'm sorry, you can't start a war, lose, and then complain about how the map is drawn. So
well, they just celebrated the 50th year anniversary.
That's exactly right. The 1967 war. And prior to 67, these were not Palestinians. They were Jordanians, Egyptians, and Syrians. You'll notice that the Jordanians, Egyptians, and Syrians are not rushing to take them back. Again, this is not a peace process. This is an ongoing war, and only one side being allowed to fight it. The international community won't let Israel fight back, and so as far as that goes, you gotta win peace. You don't just negotiate peace in many instances, and that's certainly been proven over the last half century plus in the Israeli-Palestinian situation.
Well, see, isn't the proper template is to give the terrorists $150 billion and then tell them to monitor their own weapons programs? Isn't that the way we should do this?
Well, that's why we have parolees be their own parole officers. Yeah, it's absurd. Of course, and people have been. And again, I'll defend Trump when he's worth, when he deserves defending, and I'll be angry when he doesn't. He deserves defending on not pulling out of the Iran deal, because once he got there, he realized all the goodies had already been given away by Obama. There was no point at that point to pull out. That was, of course, Trump called it the worst deal of all time, and it very likely was. They get hundreds of billions in cash. Not just credit. This is not an Amazon gift certificate. This is cash. And of course, what's left of the Iran deal is not very effective, but still better than nothing. monitoring on our part. So there's again, it's a lose at this point to pull out of the deal. So yeah, obviously that template didn't work because we're still talking about Iran. And I wrote a piece several weeks ago about this. In defense of missile defense. Clinton came out in the 90s and said, we got this fantastic deal. North Korea will not have nukes. Well, how'd that go? So we're very unsuccessful. We're very unsuccessful at controlling what we can't control. So we should control what we do, what we can control, which is, of course, missile defense.
Well, see, the Democrats recycled the same team, I believe. Wendy Sherman and some of those other same people that cut the Korean deal, cut the Iranian deal. Yeah. Which again speaks to another reason why Trump was elected. The same morons that have been failing for 50 years are still failing in D.C. And they're shocked to come to find that America's had enough and go completely outside the system for the next president. And to drain the swamp.
Ugh. And he's doing it in fits and starts, Trump is. I really do think he's doing good work on the administrative state. I think Gorsuch is going to be a pretty good Supreme Court justice. He's appointed a lot of good people in a lot of important positions. The immigration thing, he's dramatically reduced, it's amazing what happens when you announce, hey, we're actually going to enforce the law. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and then illegal immigration plummets.
Well, yeah, because they know. I saw a cartoon today online. It's older, but it said what made you think? There's a border guard standing with a long conga line of people at the border, lining up to come in. He goes, what made you think you people could come here and stay here? And they're all wearing I Love Obama T-shirts and We Love Obama and all that. He was certainly, if not outwardly saying, he was certainly signaling. And we know going down and working with the Mexican government to get people to come into this country. And
the cartoon should have them holding their pamphlets, how to get government benefits.
Yes, printed in Spanish. Yes, that's exactly right, by the Mexican government. That's exactly right. And then we act surprised that people behave, respond to the incentives we give them. It's the same with the tax code. Oh, you mean you're doing X because our tax code told you to do X? How dare you?
But we only have about a minute or so. But explain that net neutrality issue. Why did the crazies and loonies? What are they trying to defend there?
Well, there's a guy who's a communicator. He's an avowed Marxist and a college professor. Please pardon the redundancy. His name's Robert McChesney. He's a communications law professor at University of Champaign-Urbana in Illinois. It's in the Illinois satellite schools, the bunch of University of Illinois schools. Anyway, he co-founded a group called Free Press. Again, another oxymoronic name in D.C. And it's a communist left-wing group that does tech policy. And he said the ultimate objective of network neutrality is to eradicate the media capitalists of the phone and cable companies and divest them from control. How very Venezuela of them. What that means is he wants to get rid of all the Comcasts and the Verizons and the AT&Ts and the T-Mobiles and the Time Warners and all that and have government be the sole internet service provider.
See, John, how can we're coming up on that hard break? How can people read your works and support?
Please go to lessgovernment.org. You can actually sign up. There's a sign-up button, and we'll send you stuff when we write stuff. And unlike Google, we won't sell your data.
Well, we thank you for coming on the Conservative Commando Radio Show. God bless. We look forward to having you on again.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
JD, I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. It's always a great honor and pleasure to share the microphone with you. Got 30 seconds, JD. Final thoughts?
Well, it was a tremendous guest lineup again today, Rick, and it's always a pleasure working with you. Looking forward to the next time.
All right. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Sovereignty and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant. The Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wade. Conservative Commandos is happy to welcome Liberty HealthShare as a sponsor. Liberty HealthShare is a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. Liberty HealthShare exists for everyone who purchases health care for themselves or their family, or who wants to control their own health care. I run a small business, and we were caught in the confusion of Washington's ever-changing health insurance requirements. We found a common-sense solution in Liberty HealthShare. Liberty HealthShare is not insurance. It simply unites like-minded Americans to share medical costs together. Join a community of health-conscious Americans who practice long-standing Christian principles in sharing health care costs. That's Liberty HealthShare. To find out how you can easily make the change, call Liberty HealthShare today at 855-585-4237. That's 855-585-4237, or visit their website at libertyhealthshare.org.